was alive when I got the extension.
Hey, George, are you ready?
We're filming and recording.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, May 6, 2024 Town of Monroe Board Meeting. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. We're going to go through a couple of announcements first. Can I get a motion to open up this evening's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Poole will second.
Call a question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Okay, so moved. First on the agenda is Ermin Sikovic, Orange County DPW Environmental Facilities. I don't know who put that on the agenda, so
No. Oh, yes, we did. 3.1. It's on as 3.1. Community announcement.
Yes, that was my
I-
request.
okay, right, okay. Go ahead.
Yes,
You're up.
so Ermin Silkovic, did I say that right?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Ermin Silkovic works for the Orange County Department of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation. He's very active at a lot of our farmers markets where you will see him collecting composting materials. And one of the things that he's been doing is he's been working on a home composting bin program. So he's going to talk with us a bit about this new project for the county. Thank you for being with us tonight, Ermin.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor Cardone, trustees, fellow electeds, and Town of Monroe residents. My name is Ermin Silkovic. I represent the Division of Environmental Facilities and Services at Orange County, DPW. I'm the recycling coordinator. I've been there for about 8 years. Pleasure to be here meeting you for the first time. As Trustee Houle mentioned, we're conducting a series of programs and events to encourage the diversion of organics. What are organics? Organics is not some fancy, expensive food at Whole Foods. Organics is the third of our waste stream that could be diverted to composting. Or if it's edible, it could be diverted to donation. However, what I'll be speaking to you tonight about is the theme of diverting that third of our total waste stream, which is a huge chunk, to composting. And one of the best and easiest ways to divert that third of our waste is through home composting. How many of you in here compost at home? Small? Okay. Well, our goal is to make this more of a mainstream thing because it is that easy. We all, over the past 30 plus years, have gotten used to the idea of recycling, right? And we can talk a lot about that maybe at a future meeting with our new app called Recycle Coach, which I highly recommend you download. But speaking of the organic stream, like I said, it's one of the most easiest things that we can divert in our own backyard for relatively cheap or no investment. You can do it it could be as easy as setting up a wireframe bin with posts in your backyard, or it could be through the purchasing of a composter like the one that you see there. We sell that composter at cost at $60, and we have an online web sale that's occurring now as we speak. If you don't mind, I'm just going to walk across this way and show you our flyer. We have electronic versions of this as well that I've distributed to Valerie, who will hopefully be disseminating that. But basically, it's not just the composter sale. We sell rain barrels and other implements to help you with composting at home. And basically, what is composting? It's taking your yard waste, your grass clippings, your food scraps that are your non-meat and non-dairy food scraps, putting it in like a kitchen countertop collection unit, like a coffee can or something like that, and then putting it into something like this. Like I said, you don't necessarily need one of these, but it does make it easy to compost. And it is this size, why? So it can hold a lot of materials, and B, so it can contain all the bugs and all the worms that are needed for that process to occur to break down your food scraps in a hygienic way, right? It's not bear-proof, though our garbage and trash bins and recycling bins are not bear-proof either. This is not going to create a bear problem. If there are bears, they're just naturally going to be bears. But if we compost and we use a lot of browns, right, like a lot of twigs, a lot of dried leaves, etc., it would depress the scent that would or could emit if the materials weren't managed properly. As I mentioned, I did have a slideshow which has a few other factoids on it, but
I can pull it up.
Okay, maybe we can go through it really quick, just for the lack of time, but this perhaps could be available, or if anyone's interested, could reach out to Valerie and maybe we can send you a copy of it. It's a very quick 10-slide slideshow, basically about getting to know the basics. If you could go to the next slide, Valerie. So yes, it's all about the fun of composting and doing something good for the earth, but me, where I'm coming from, my main role at the county is to encourage or to find markets to divert the trash that's coming in downstream to recycling rather than to the landfill. And as I mentioned, a third of our waste is organics, and we are currently having this problem where more and more landfills in the region are hitting capacity. So we're running out of that away. So we're going to see in the next 10, 12, 15, 20 years that throwing away that banana peel or throwing away that recyclable item is going to be a luxury that we're not going to have much longer in the future. Next slide. What's in our waste? I just want to point this corner here. This yellow and gray part of the pie here is our organics stream. Everything else, a quarter of it is paper, and then we have others like textiles and plastics and metal. But our organic stream is that third of the pizza pie right there. So it's a big chunk of our waste. Next slide. The EPA recommends that we follow the waste management hierarchy, which has source reduction at the top, right, and of feeding people when it comes to food. But then further down, you have composting before trashing our waste, our food scraps. Next slide. Why is composting important? It contains many multiple beneficial microorganisms that help plants grow. It's about 30% of what we throw away. And also, our food waste contributes 23% of the methane that goes into the environment and destroys our ozone layer. So it has a huge effect on our greenhouse gases if we compost at home. Next slide. Benefits of using compost: conserves water, feeds plants, boosts plant health, and prevents erosion. Next slide. How to compost: very easy. I mentioned this. Place it in your yard. Source separate at your kitchen. Next slide. Greens, you want to put in your greens, your kitchen scraps. So any kitchen scrap, even coffee grinds, tea bags, etc., nut shells, egg shells, just no meat or dairy. And again, with food soiled paper is also encouraged. So the paper tissues and napkins that you use to, wipe your plate, etc., could go in the composter, not in your recycling. Next slide. We'll skip this video for now for the internet reasons. Next slide. That's this flyer here. Like I said, this is an online sale. So the link, www.enviroworld.us/Orange County, New York. Click on that link. You can purchase your own composter. It's a pre-order. Then you would have to go to Cornell Cooperative Extension on June 26th to get your composter. So it's kind of a bulk order. So you don't get it delivered to your door. You'd have to pick it up at Cornell Cooperative Extension, who will also have volunteers educating on how to compost, etc. Next slide. Yep, and that's it. That's our QR code for our Recycle Coach app, where we send out notifications and lots of information on composting, recycling, and all other things related to recycling and waste management. So highly recommend you download that. In any case, thank you so much for your time. I hope I didn't talk too long, but really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Ermin. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to give Ermin an opportunity to speak to the public on a Saturday morning. Town Hall is available Saturday, May 18th at 10 a.m. I'd like to invite him as our guest to come here on that Saturday, give a presentation where he can take a couple of breaths, maybe show that video, and maybe get a couple of people to learn a bit about composting.
You want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that the town of Monroe provide a public presentation regarding composting by Ermin Silkovich on Saturday, May 18th at 10 a.m. here in Town Hall.
Second.
Second it.
Call the question?
Question?
Oh, does any other
No.
comments?
Call the question?
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, thank
Yay.
you. We'll see you on the 18th.
on May 18th, Ermin. Thank you so much.
Okay, item 3.2 is a wrap of the 2024 Monroe Community Clean Sweep. I'm going to table that till next meeting because I'm still waiting for a couple of invoices so we get the financial aspect of it finalized. So I'll make a motion to table that.
Second.
Call the
Wait.
question.
I have to know what the weirdest thing that Sal found was, though. I've been waiting to know. Yeah.
I mean, another tick, but other than that,
No voodoo dolls.
nothing crazy.
Although Tony and I found an enormous bag of shoes.
I found a raccoon that was no longer inflated. That was it.
Okay, call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. St. Jude's Kids Radiothon. Madam Clerk?
So this is just a recap from last meeting. Town Clerk's Office is participating in the St. Jude's Kids Radiothon. Minimum donation of $1. Town Clerk's Office will be collecting donations. I believe they'll be coming to any donation. Have like go to ShopRite and they have the little sneakers, so there's a boot card if you want to make a donation dedicated to someone who passed away from cancer, has cancer. We have those available in my office through, again, I believe it's May 13th.
Thank you. Next item up is the MS Walk for Orange County. It's going to be held on June 9th, 2024 at the Village of Monroe Commuter Lot in Monroe. There's a volunteer opportunity for everyone. They accept families and individuals of all ages. If you're interested in volunteering, contact Jessica Rind, and that's jessica.rind, and it's JESSICA.RHIND at nmss.org. You could sign up and you get questions answered. Okay, item 3.5, Town of Monroe Food Truck Festival. Sal?
Yeah, once again, it's that time of year. June 15th is our date, 11 to 7 p.m. at O&R Park. Our beneficiary will be the First Due Ladies Crew, which is from Harriman Engine Company. So, listen, it's one of the best food truck festivals in Orange County, and just come on out and support the town. Should be a great day like it always is.
And the Ladies Auxiliary at Harriman supports all the fire houses in the town. They're just based out of Harriman. Okay, I just wanted, before we get into the public hearings, County Executive Steve
Excuse me.
Newhouse.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make a subsequent motion that if we hadn't already considered advertising the Town of Monroe Food Truck Festival for the photo news, I had been in contact with them, and I think a full price page ad is not to exceed $350 if we're interested. So I don't know if you want to consider that now or motion to table for next time.
I think we can
We
consider.
usually do put
Yeah,
it
we usually do put an ad in.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
So
always
we
do.
don't need a motion, it's already budgeted.
Okay.
Okay.
So County Executive Newhouse, come on up. County Executive Newhouse asked to speak. He's going around the county speaking at various public meetings. So,
It's not on. It's not on.
yeah, because yeah.
Sorry.
There
So
you go.
look, it's great to see you guys. I was thinking about on my way here, I was born and raised in Monroe. I first got registered to vote, and the first place I voted at was Smith and Strebel's store was like a voting place at some point. And my grandparents, they passed away before I was born. Both immigrants came and opened he was a barber, she was a beautician, right next to Jimmy Ebner's building.
Oh, wow.
So I was just thinking on my way here, I'm like, man, I got a lot of roots in Monroe. I went to Monroe Woodbury. So I'm super happy to be here, and even though my family farm is in Chester, Monroe, and Blooming Grove, I went to Monroe, but I ended up being a councilman and then a supervisor in Chester, and I had almost similar situation as you do, Tony. I was a Republican town supervisor, and I had 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and it was probably one of the best times of my life. We had so much fun. Bob Moran, who lives in Chester. He was one of my council members. He was a Democrat, Vietnam veteran. I saw him last week, and he said, "Man, those were the days." I said, "Absolutely." It's really where the responsibility. These guys can get you on the way out, and get me on the way out, and say, "Look, I want this fixed. You're not doing this right," or "Hey, I like what you're doing." And it's so much rewarding. I think the 5 of you know, as opposed to like what you see in Washington and Albany and the paralysis and stuff going on. So let me just talk to you real quick about the county. I'll speak quickly because that's the way I am. I live on coffee. And then I'll take questions, I'll shut up. So first off, the county's doing phenomenal. We've never had a lower tax rate than we do now. We can't go back in the records further enough. So the county is doing financially well. So the lowest tax rate. We have a smaller size government. We have at least 200 less employees than when I came in there about 9 years ago. And then a couple other things I wanted to tell you is we have less debt as well. So a lot of people talk about doing that. And why is that important? Because we have 62 counties in the state of New York. I'm the chairman of the County Execs Association, Republican, Democratic. One of my closest friends is the Albany County Executive. He's a veteran like me from Iraq, awesome guy. And we work bipartisanly on all sorts of crazy issues. We went down to the border in El Paso last month and then crossed into Mexico. It was a complete disaster, humanitarian and national security disaster. But we wrote a bipartisan letter to the president and Congress, and we're testifying on what we think are some good common ground that we can work together to have some type of solutions, because right now it is not a good situation, and we think that this summer is going to be worse for New York because majority of those folks seeking asylum are coming to New York for a number of reasons. We can get into that later if you need to. A couple things like initiatives that we're working on in the county: open space. We still have our family farm in Chester and Monroe. Obviously, actually, the bulk of it's in Monroe. I sent Tony Cardone a YouTube clip on the way over here, and I'm going to post it on my county page. I'm a beekeeper. We still have I caught a honeybee swarm on my way over here, and we still have a working farm in Monroe, and we love it. But the rest of the county is under attack for heavy development, and we're doing a major open space campaign. So the Orange County Legislature is made up of Republicans, Democrats, and a bunch of independents. The reason why I keep mentioning party is because everywhere else in the country, everything is so crazy. We can make things happen here. Since I've been the county executive, the legislature votes unanimously for my budget. We hash it out and we battle it out, and this guy wants that, or this lady wants that, and I push back, or they go along with things. But at the end of the day, we work united. So I think that's a good thing, and it makes my job. I have the best job in the world as county executive. It's been very fun and very rewarding, but we're doing a major push with open space. So last week, the legislature passed a resolution supporting the Preservation Act. The Association of Towns voted last week. It was actually almost unanimous. One village guy voted against it because he wanted villages included, but he didn't realize that the towns cover all the villages in the county.
It's on our agenda tonight.
It's on your agenda tonight. So it's happening around the county. The Chamber of Commerce is doing it. The Orange County Land Trust is doing it, because if you have big pieces of land in Monroe, in Chester, as you guys know, we just preserved the Sugarloaf Mountain. It's been talked about for 30 years to preserve it. And if you guys don't think you can develop Sugarloaf Mountain, drive from Rockland County on the Palisades and look at that beautiful mountainscape. It's filled with houses. There's a ways to do it. That'll be a county park. I plan on opening it up to the public within the next couple months. So these are great things. We had our first Boy Scout camp out, and I was a scout in Monroe, Troop 440. We had the first Boy Scout camp out in probably 30 years at a county park this past weekend. We had 1,300 kids there, boys and girls. These are the great and cool and fun stuff that we're doing. How are we able to do this? Well, you guys you balance your budget on property tax, but you also get a big chunk of sales tax money from the county. The county balances its budget predominantly on sales tax. New York State balances its budget on income tax. So 3 different kinds of government, 3 different ways of funding it. Our sales tax is 6% higher today than it was a year ago. Added to 62 counties, I guarantee you, overwhelming majority are either flatlined or underwater from last year. And that's because of the diverse portfolio of businesses that we have here. And it could be like the big Woodbury Commons, it could be the Legolands, it could be your downtown Main Street, your ice cream shops. They all matter. So that's some of the stuff we're doing. I could talk some of the sticky, ugly things. So we got a couple lawsuits. So we filed a lawsuit for the MTA congestion pricing, which hurts our commuters. We also filed a lawsuit. The legislature, again, by the way, is pretty much unanimous, if not maybe a couple of them are missing. We filed a lawsuit, and I hate lawsuits. I know I see Mr. Nugent here. No offense to you guys. I said 99% of the lawyers give the 1% a bad name, but I'm kidding. But we filed a lawsuit. We're doing it this week, suing the insulin manufacturers around the country because about a third of people that are insulin dependent, like diabetic and things of that nature, stopped going on using insulin and had their health deteriorate because of the cost. That's what the county has to do. I got to fight for you guys. We did that a couple of years ago. We started the lawsuits for the opioids, and that money is now being used throughout the county. So the Association of County Execs started that in Washington, and then a lot of the states joined in. And what we're doing with that money is using it for 3-fold areas. One is prevention. The best way to get people is to not get them to do those drugs in the first place. The second thing is to get them to treatment. So those are the type of things that we're trying to do. So we're also trying to put out things like these. We have these bags that you're going to be able to get all over the place. The town will get them. You'll be able to distribute them to your public. And what they do is you can put all your stuff in this bag and throw it in the garbage. It's endorsed by the EPA and the DEA. So if you ever get those 2 agencies to agree, it's monumental. But that's the type of stuff that we're doing. So this way, people that might feel a little bit embarrassed by going to their local drop-off places to drop off their extra drugs, this is another way to get that off the street. So that's some of the things that we're working on. We got some great parks and activities, the air show, all that stuff for the summertime. We're looking at some major entertainment venues coming to Orange County in the next couple months that you're going to be hearing about. One to the south of you in Tuxedo, very exciting. I'm not talking housing, I'm talking about an entertainment themed. And then in Montgomery, the dinosaur park is moving forward along. All that stuff helps, generates jobs, activity, people visiting here in a positive way. That's all I got to say, and I'll take some questions from you.
Yeah, who's coming to the air show this year?
So, oh gosh, yeah. So the air show is being headlined by the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, but they're also having the Italian Air Force for the first time in over 30 years to commemorate the 500th anniversary of Verrazzano. I get picked on because I don't have, even though I spent 2 months in Italy with the military, I don't know my Italian heritage as opposed to, I guess, half the board is Italian, so I apologize. I do enjoy your food, though.
That's good. It's a great event.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns, stuff that we're missing? What can we do? That Preservation Act would allow you guys to generate money to purchase purchase property or purchase the development rights.
Question on that.
Yeah.
Is the version that you guys are supporting, I mean, I read the county's resolution, and it was either pass the one that's in committee now or create a new one, is how I read it. Is the one that's in committee now and the one that you would hope to pass regardless, would that put it to ballot, or would it be an automatic authorization?
This is just to urge Albany to pass it for us. We've been blocked. Most of the counties in the state have a countywide, are allowed to do it, and if their town chooses, like if the town of Monroe says we don't want it, you at least have the option to do it. This would allow us and urge the state legislature and the governor. The governor, it's been held up number of years. So
Yes, so the result of that, if it passed, I know I'm trying to say like Ulster and all these neighboring communities do have it, but I'm unsure if once it was authorized and say the town decided to opt in, is it automatic that we could levy a tax for preservation, or would that have to go out as
That's a great
a
question.
ballot to be voted on?
I don't know if your attorney knows. It's a great question, but I thought it was automatic that you can do it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, great question though. Now, no, for you,
I've been researching
you're
it
the
for a
first town
while.
I'm visiting.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to Minnesink next, but not tonight. But it is a great question. But at least it allows you to have that in your arsenal. I know, like
Yeah.
Blooming Grove, Chester, Monroe, Cornwall, all are having some development pressures. But we're also targeting about 10 or 15,000 acres in the Deer Park, Port Jervis area that we're heavily looking to preserve as like a mini Adirondack Park right now as well. But I'm going to look into that. It's a great question.
Anybody else? What? Anybody from the audience? Sure. Mr. Burke, why don't you come up here, state your name?
No, you're good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to
too,
see you.
sir.
Yeah, just want to ask, as long as the county executive is here, maybe he can get us some electric buses for Dollar Bus, because we got plenty of electricity, and why burn gas when we got free electricity?
It's a great question. We could probably do that. If you guys want to be one of the pilots, we can definitely do that. So I would talk to, because a lot of that is run through our office, Alan Sorensen, our planner, can run point on it. But we're doing it in other counties. By the way, today, and I know you guys have other stuff to be in. Obviously, people are very serious in the audience. You're waiting for something. But today, we just launched, there's 4 school districts that volunteered to do this, but the first one was Washingtonville, and it's called the Stop Arm Camera. And we can get into the details on it, but really what we're seeing is 50,000 people a day pass a stop school bus with kids. So what this has on it is a school bus has 360 cameras. It's got a license plate reader. And basically what we're doing is we're going to be ticketing people with a $250 fine initially. And literally the results of that we've seen of this across the state, this has been done in a couple other counties, 98% of the people that get 1 ticket for passing a school bus never do it again. That's a success. It will not cost you guys anything, doesn't cost the county anything. All the buses are being equipped with all these high-tech stuff. I went through it today, it's pretty cool. Washingtonville stepped up first, Kiers Joel School District, town of Newburgh School District in Middletown. But I'm hoping Monroe, Woodbury, Chester, Valley Central, every school district in the county should take it. It's free. So I think it's probably just that, hey, we don't want to be the first one out, but I think it's something that's going to be pretty cool, especially when we're seeing this. We see this, if you see the videos that I show you in Orange County, including our school districts, where you see kids walking in front of school in a bus, zooming by them within inches, I'm telling you, it happens here in this town.
Yeah.
It'll make a difference.
We know.
We're well aware, especially with
This
the
is gonna make
private,
a
private
difference.
busing companies
And it's
around
free.
here.
So,
Yeah.
So in that same vein, I just had a final
Yep.
quick question. We could email about this later,
Absolutely.
but just because it sounds like training and education with busing is so important. We just did our local clean sweep, and I've been working with also local cleanup crews that have been asking for like local education campaigns when it comes to littering, because I think I saw one of your memos as well, that the litter has just never been so in our faces before. And I'm just wondering if it's time as a county to do some kind of commercials or something in the paper, some kind of education or marketing campaign against, if you love New York, don't litter, kind of.
I think it's a combination, and it's something that we're definitely working on. So I think that there's been a huge deterioration of people drive like crazy. People drive like, I was on 17 today after I left to drive, and I was going like 55, 60 on my mini, I was going 60. People were going me at least 90. Nobody to stop them. And I get if you see once a month I give the 911 stats, the amount of traffic tickets that we issue are nowhere near we need to. So we need to do a campaign on that. We definitely need to do a campaign on litter. And I think what we need to do is have a couple people in a newspaper. We used to have that, and the local newspapers are the best. And say, look, we got Bob Jones for dumping TVs on this property. And it's very easy to do. And that will stop by, because people don't care, because there's no repercussions right now. So I think there's an education like, hey, you should definitely keep your neighborhood clean. But I think there's also a major enforcement thing that we're missing. We just started a retail crime task force. The DA and the sheriff are both doing it. I'm going to see how it goes before I get involved in it. We all work together. I don't want to duplicate something. But we need to start holding people accountable. You set up a trail cam, like me, I'm an outdoor type of person, you'll have the evidence right there, just like we're gonna have with the school buses. The biggest problem we saw in other counties is they're not enforceable. Well, here's a picture of you. just like when you pass a red light thing. But I think they're great suggestions. We have in our Orange County Office of Public Works a whole environmental division that's in charge of not only educating people on sewer and all the other stuff on there, or what to put down when you flush, or what you put in the garbage, but it's something we could definitely add to there. So good suggestions. We'll light a fire under their backside on it.
Yeah,
But
they
I
asked
definitely like
for
to see enforcement.
cameras, signs. It's just something just re-sparked. People
Yeah.
forgot. It used to be out there, don't litter. If you care, don't litter. And now
Yeah.
there's no signs, there's no cameras. I even said have the state troopers, as long as they're out there, monitor for speeding, park where there's dumping. So then you get 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Something
Good
needs to be done.
suggestion.
Just to answer the question earlier, it makes Monroe eligible when you do this because it changes the definition of designated community in the tax law to include Orange County. But the town of Monroe and any other entity would still need to adopt a local law to put it into effect, but you'd be authorized to do it once this legislation were passed.
And it wouldn't require a referendum
So
or...
the local law, as it's written now, once you're authorized to do
And
so,
Brian,
it goes to ballot.
can you answer Councilwoman Hull's question
It's the
first,
same
please?
question.
So would it require a
I don't think
referendum?
it indicates a referendum, it's a local
Okay.
law. Once
Okay.
this is state legislation. Right now, tax law doesn't include Orange County in the definition of designated communities. It has Putnam and Westchester. So it looks like this county resolution is to add Orange to that law. Then communities within Orange County can adopt a local law. I don't see an indication, but I'll check on that if there's a referendum required.
Yeah, because the law now, as written, once authorized, it then would go to ballot, as I understand, or
Right,
referendum.
so then, yeah, we'll confirm that.
And then as I saw the county written, it was either encouraging what's in committee now to be passed, or whatever they found suitable to rewrite and pass for what was written.
I tell my lawyers how to get us there. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is our county attorney, Rick Golden, said, just tell them not to alter the law because I guess everything,
Right.
as we know, needs to be like
goes-
same as. So I get it, but yeah, I can't. How we get what's in the recipe, I ask the cook. I just tell them what to serve.
Yeah, generally, the tax law amendments for us would be mandatory referendums, not permissive. In other words, not a petition case. If it's a imposition of this tax by local law, you would then pass the law, but it wouldn't become effective until there was a mandatory referendum and you put a proposition on the ballot.
Okay.
How did the rollout of the improving the connectivity at the schools go? I know,
It's pretty interesting because some of the comments, we judge the rollouts now by comments because there's really not a lot of big name news anymore. But I read some of the comments today and people are like, people drive like, you know what, or the bus drivers need to be more educated. Ultimately, I thought this was going to be just like a home run. Every media was there today. The TVs, News 12, and Spectrum, so the whole county was covered. But look, I had the superintendent and I had the principal of the schools there. I'm sure a lot of the school districts around the county are saying, why are we not one of the 4? Or how about we become the 5th one? But to me, it's like a no-brainer. And like you mentioned about litter, unless we start doing some of these creative things, nothing's going to happen. And we don't have all the good ideas. I got this from another county about 4 or 5 years ago. I just came back from Iraq. We had a county execs meeting, and Suffolk County said, hey, we're trying this new wacky camera thing. And thankfully, just like when you buy a brand new car, you don't want to buy the first year model. Suffolk County had all sorts of things. The bus driver went to McDonald's, sat there for a half hour. They issued 1,000 tickets that month out of McDonald's for people that went by the bus camera because they didn't have the bugs out of the system. So these are the type of things that we have to cut through when we're looking at them. But it's all cool. It's all good stuff.
Thank you for coming tonight. Really appreciate the
Thank
update.
you, guys. Great being back here.
Thank you.
Good to have you back.
Supervisor, just one last community announcement. This Wednesday, April 10th, Orange County Mobile DMV will be here in the back parking lot from 10 a.m. to 12.
April 10th? May 10th?
May 10th.
May 10th, sorry.
Is it?
No, May 8th.
May 8th, yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
May 8th.
yeah.
I'm sorry. From 10 to 12, they're closed from 12 to 1, and then they'll be back from 1 to 3:30.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Forgot to ask him if he's got the bees with him right now.
Okay, item 4.1. I'll make a motion to open the continuation of the public hearing for local law H-V1 of 2022 to amend Chapter 57, zoning concerning regulations governing tree preservation.
Bingham to second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, anybody sign up?
Dennis Fordham?
Dennis? On.
Hello?
There we go.
Now we got it.
Thank you.
It's a bit like Groundhog Day. I keep coming back for the revisions to the tree code. I received, as all you did, the latest revision to the tree preservation law dated April the 22nd. I submitted my comments this morning. Most of them minimal, some grammatical items in there. The changes that have taken place with this latest law, one is a discussion that we'd had before about removing 3 or less trees. Did it require a permit? With the earlier tree code, a resident can remove up to 6 trees without any requirement to go to anyone. Now, if this goes through, a resident should go to, should be required to submit, as written at the moment, a tree removal notification form, submit it to the town clerk, it will go to the building inspector and to me for the Conservation Commission for review. I think this is okay. This needs to be seriously considered. The issues with this, I think, are how do you get this information out to town residents and then enforcing it thereafter. If we're really serious about this, it has to be enforced. We need some information out there. The other ones I think who would be good to be informed is those people who remove the trees, tree removal contractors. As far as I know now, they come into the town, any town, a resident wants trees removed, and they just remove them. There's no particular requirement to go to the building inspector unless there's a permit involved. That should change, I believe. Is there some way of informing those contractors that there is a law that they have to comply with and to make sure that they get the permit or the appropriate documentation from the resident that those trees that they've identified to be removed can be removed. The item that came up was some release of mitigation severity for large developments. I personally have no particular concern for these. They seem okay. There's other considerations that I believe others need to take into account legally. From the planning position's point of view, they have to administer this and look into this in some detail. So they really need to get involved, I think, with that requirement. Otherwise, I think that they're good.
You had said you're waiting for some answers from Bonnie Franson, our planning board chair.
Oh, it's a totally separate issue. No,
Okay.
not on the tree code. No.
Okay.
In the past, I'm going back to maybe November, December now, and her opinion there was no. I think her will opine when we get the go ahead from the board. So,
Okay.
there you go.
All right.
So my written comments stand.
Yeah,
Any questions come back to me, then let me know.
Yeah.
I think we should have some sort of workshop meeting, gathering.
Yeah.
And
We've
got to
that'd
get
be
it out
excellent.
to the town as to what our new tree
Most
law
definitely,
requires.
Dennis.
Okay.
Thank you for all your efforts with this. Really appreciate it.
Ongoing.
All right.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
That's all for public comment.
Okay.
Are we going down to respond one by one or for
Yeah,
comment?
sure.
Yeah. Do you want to start, Mary?
Well, I do like that in the new version, we're also allowing for some green infrastructure, whether it's solar charging stations for electric cars or green roofs. So I think that's a good addition to the revision. Okay.
Anyone else?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I think I had spoken to Dennis a lot about a couple questions, and I hadn't had a chance to really dive into the way that the law is worded, so I think I also want to set up a workshop meeting and talk with Max about how this would be practically written. I personally have concerns about how the subdivision articles appear written to me. It seems like there might be room for exploitation where if you continue to subdivide and then lay a house at the center of that lot, then all of those trees that person would appear to get for free as an incentive to keep the boundary, the borders of that subdivision, to keep those trees up. But, you know, all good plans don't wind up that way, so I'd like to tighten up any loopholes that might lead to exploitation for the subdivision issue, especially in larger plots that get subdivided down for potential exploitation purposes, if you see what I'm saying. So I'd really like to drill down into how that's worded to just protect from that, taking more trees as a loophole without giving the fees, the full fees that we would be receiving otherwise. And then as a second, I like the idea of green infrastructure and green roofs and solar charging stations. However, there is no substitute for a full-grown tree. There's no substitute for a full-grown mature forest, a native forest. There's no substitute for wetlands and the carbon sink and the natural benefits that they provide. So we would really have to be careful about, again, the one-to-one ratio, what ratio we're allowing, and how much we are allowing as an incentive. Like, we want certain green aspects brought to Monroe as a result of this commercial development, but when I made public comment encouraging that we are going to have to think about the commercial aspects of this, I really was talking more about how it would be extremely arduous to measure on, say, 100 acres of tree, every single tree, so that there are easier ways to measure by sampling, like, say, a neutral selected area that is statistically like all of the area, and then measuring that and using that as a starting point. But right now, after speaking with Ben, our building inspector, he let me know that we already require, no matter how many trees there are, to all of them be measured. So again, I just want to go through these incentives that we're offering and making sure that there's very little room for exploitation, just so that the intent of the law, it remains preservation. Thank you.
Just to answer your question about, it's not a one-for-one when you're taking down a tree. There's a tree density unit. So based on the size of the tree, you would need to put up or pay for more than that number.
Right. I meant the ratio of what we are allowing for the commercial density, whatever we're taking away and allowing the green infrastructure and the solar charging stations to replace. We've done a good job, I believe, calculating based on tree density the literal replacements tree to tree. But I mean, there is no one-to-one replacement at all. There's no kind of literal replacement for a tree that isn't a tree. You see what I'm saying? So you have to be careful when you're replacing a tree with a charging station, because those are not the same environmental actions. It's a pro-environmental action to not use electricity and to not put carbon out into the world, but it's not the same thing as creating oxygen or taking carbon out of the atmosphere. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, but at least we're offering mitigation opportunities of reducing the amount of greenhouse gases or carbon monoxide that's getting into the air from vehicles. We're allowing for geothermal heating, which is going to reduce the need for electric heat or fossil fuel heat or wood-burning stoves. So while we aren't necessarily replacing that one tree anywhere or paying for that one tree anywhere, we're still eliminating some of the causes of the pollution that the trees have to clean up. So it's all a balance. We have to find
Right, that's what I said. We
balance.
have to be careful with. I want to just make sure that balance is achieved and not, the numbers I was looking at and speaking with seemed a little high for me, but if we sit and have that workshop meeting, I think that we could really dive into the details of what seems balanced. So that's just my concern.
Okay, can we move on? We got a long agenda.
Yep.
Possible motion to keep the continuation of the public hearing for Chapter 57, Local Law HV1 of 22. What's the flavor of the board? Do you want to keep it open?
I think we should keep it open at least until June. That would
Okay.
give time to set up a workshop.
Okay. So we'll keep it open till June 3rd at 7 PM or immediately thereafter.
Hool will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Hool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Item 4.3 is a motion to open the continuation of the public hearing regarding short-term rental application for 649 Lakes Road, SBL 29-1-34.1. Do I have a second?
Second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Hool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Is the applicant here? Applicant's attorney here? Yeah, he's here.
He's here.
He's hiding behind the TV.
Supervisor, I have residents signed up also. Do you want Mr. DeJoy to speak
I'd
first?
like him to go first, and then maybe their
Certainly.
questions could be answered.
Yeah, I think we should point out the letter was received, but it came in today, so I don't know if the board members have seen it, but I
Yeah,
believe-
There were some
we're
printouts
not gonna
mentioned.
vote on it tonight, because I didn't even get a chance to see it until 4:30. and
Sure,
I
no,
didn't review it,
that's
so.
fine. So I'd like to review the letter with you nonetheless
Sure.
and ask you to at least close the public hearing tonight.
Did you
So-
have some printouts for us? I
Yeah,
saw
would
that.
you like copies?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Just while Mr. DeJoy is pulling that out, I believe the letter is more or less a summary of issues that were raised at the last public hearing and his responses, the applicant's responses to those.
That's correct, yeah.
This is the, I got it on my email, so.
I would, yes.
Right on the right, in the front row.
All right, so I know kind of the most pressing issue was privacy, and you'll see at the back of this packet, we have quite a few color photos that kind of show the dwelling from various angles. And if you look through the photos, you can see there's trees, there's stone wall, there's kind of a, I don't want to say hills, but the yard slopes. So that kind of gives you some privacy there. And really, that combined with the distance from the neighboring houses, which is about 200 to 400 plus feet, this dwelling is really pretty isolated from the neighbors, from the surroundings. So I think that alone is enough to really negate any potential privacy issues. Again, it's a one-bedroom short-term rental. There's really no reason that there should be any kind of excessive noise, lighting, anything like that. And in all likelihood, you're not going to have more than 2 people staying there probably. I know the supervisor raised the question about the septic easement. We included a copy of that in the submission as well. There's an easement, it's just to the south of the applicant's property on the neighboring parcel. Don't need to do anything with the septic as far as I'm aware. And then the last issue was the setbacks. So the applicant actually met with the building inspector a week or 2 ago. The building inspector, I believe, was familiar with the application already, and in his opinion, he saw no issues as far as setbacks or need for variances. We're not changing anything, we're not enlarging the building, so as far as he's concerned, we're good to go there. Does the board have any questions? I know I spoke kind of fast and gave you a lot of information.
Councilwoman Bingham raised a point about our code stating about pool usage. I don't know if she'd like to bring that up.
Just have to find it. Just give me a second. One of the residents had brought up that the main house has a pool, and the question was brought up, would the short-term rental also be using the pool? So that's a
No.
definite no.
That's a no.
Okay, so that's good. The other thing is the access is off School Road.
That's correct, yeah.
think you need a little better sign there. I live not far from this property, and I had to ask the building inspector which of the driveways it was. So for somebody who's not familiar with it, they could very easily turn into one of the neighbors' driveways by accident.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, yeah.
As far as noise, 200 feet if it's a wild party, 500 feet if it's a wild party, 1,000 feet if it's a wild party, you will still hear it. So I believe there are some ordinances that we have regarding noise, and your rental agreement would definitely spell those out for the renters.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, you know, it's a one-bedroom. We're not anticipating, and certainly would discourage anyone, you know, from thinking that this is a party house of any sorts. It's really, I don't know how many square feet it is off the top of my head, but it's small, so it's
950 square feet, something like that,
it's
right?
very small.
Okay, those were my questions, thank you.
One bedroom, that's all it is?
Yeah. I think maybe at one time the building had 2 bedrooms, but as far as this application is concerned and the furniture and everything, it's a 1 bedroom. That's what it's going to be rented as.
I have any other questions?
I'd like an opportunity to review this better, so.
Sure.
I know that I will have questions about the septic. I just don't, you know, we got this so late today, so.
Sure. No, I
we'll need some
understand.
time to review this.
Okay, what's the flavor of the board? Keep it open till,
Oh, we have additional speakers.
oh, I'm sorry, right, we have other people. Okay, thank you, Ms. LaJoy, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ramon and Yolanda carry on. Just a reminder, you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, thank you for coming tonight.
So, just like yourselves, we just received a letter. We'd like to have an opportunity to read it and do a little research about it. I really would like to make a comment or rebuttal to a comment that was made at the last meeting while we were concluding this portion of it. In terms of what I had brought to the table regarding the misrepresentation of the application, I overheard the town attorney make comment that it was be considered as a oops.
As a what?
As a oops, not a misrepresentation. At first I took exception to it, but I kind of thought to myself that there must be a reason why he said that. And I looked at my notes and I realized that he possibly didn't have the full story. And so the best way for me to put it to you guys here is that we received the initial application via certified mail on July 20th. That initial application indicated that it was a 2-bedroom, 874 square foot dwelling that can accommodate 6 people. On the 26th of July, I went on to Caldwell Banker and to Redfin, where this particular property was recently posted for rental, not short-term rental. It indicated an 874 square foot space, 1 bedroom, 2 people to occupy. So that posting was put on there by the new applicant, the applicant of record. He owns the property. He's the person that's going to rent it. So I immediately wrote a letter, and I sent it to Mr. Ben Maldonado. And in the letter, I indicated, hey, we've got an application here for the same property. One says 874 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 6 people. The other one on the internet says it's for 2 people. I'm assuming, and you shouldn't do this, right? We all know the saying, that that information was then given to the applicant. Soon after that, in August, I get another copy of an application, and it says on it, it's corrected. It wasn't certified mail. So maybe that application was not run through the system immediately, because I believe that the requirement is for it to be certified to all the neighbors within 500 feet. To address your comment that you made, I think that you need to really look at the whole story. It tends to tell us who we're going to rent, who's owning this property, and what their real intentions are. It's all commercial mindset. I briefly read this letter before I run out of time, and in terms of privacy, the pictures are taken from the viewpoint of the property itself. I have a video in my phone that I took on the way over here from my property. This property is 18 inches from the property line. There are no shrubs on my property or on his property. There is no privacy between me and him at all. I don't want to waste your time in showing you the video. I think at this point you guys should think that I'm telling you the truth. But I would like for the privacy issue to be resolved. If I'm going to have to deal with this, I want to make sure that the privacy issue, the quiet that I enjoy so much, that I can still enjoy it. And I think that's a big aspect for me. So I hope you guys can take a look at that and consider it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. There's a guideline in the code regarding noise.
There is.
So if something happens, you know, and you complain and you have video footage and whatnot of it, you know, it will definitely be addressed. And as far as the shrubs, I'm in total agreement with you. I think you should have as much privacy as can be done. Is the stone patio out back, does that go from the house to the fence line?
It's parallel.
Parallel, okay. So is it possible you can email that video
Sure.
to me, and I'll, or actually email it to the clerk,
Sure.
and we'll let the clerk distribute it to the board?
Absolutely, absolutely.
The other thing that the noise level may then increase because then you also have the other property which they're not, looking at, which is the Chester. Once that also comes into play, there's going to be even higher level of noise.
Yeah,
Is
with
the
photos.
Chester property also being up for short-term rental? Or?
No, it's not, but it's going to have entertainment area.
Oh, that's the
Yeah, with the,
larger pool area and everything like that. So it's a permanent rental
Yeah.
area. Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys, appreciate it. Why don't you grab Val's email?
Mr. Nugent, we can't ask them to add privacy, but we can refuse if we feel that there is no reasonable privacy, is what I'm
Yeah, the
reading.
the language in the code is reasonable degree of privacy. That's not defined, but that's the board's determination.
Are there any other speakers for public
That's all
comment?
for public comment.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to keep open the continuation.
Supervisor, if I just want to, Mr. Gio, I wish to respond to anything before we close tonight's session?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the privacy goes, I would just echo what Mr. Nugent said, that, the code requires a reasonable degree of privacy. This dwelling is at least 200 and closer to 400 feet away from the neighboring homes. I don't see any reason to believe why there would be more noise or other privacy impacts than, any other single-family home. I think there's only so much we can do. I get that there's generalized concerns about having a short-term rental next to someone's property. I get that, but I don't think there's really, anything. I don't think there's, any specific privacy concerns that we've heard. It's.
I'm gonna give you my opinion.
Sure.
Is that the proximity of that house is too close to the property line.
Agreed.
And that presents a privacy issue for me.
You're 200 feet away and there's nothing in between us. I can see exactly what you're doing. And there's
Well,
no,
there's not nothing. I mean, there's trees, there's shrubs.
well, we'll talk about it next time.
We'll take a look at the video and see. I think it's pretty open. I've walked that property, so.
All right.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it. Yeah,
For
just
this-
give the clerk $150 and you're welcome to speak. Yeah.
And
y-
each
go
of
ahead.
us.
You can, yeah, just, State your name, where you live.
George Matosian, 123 School Road, Monroe, New York, 10950. On the privacy issue, the access, which is very, very narrow, is right next to an elderly woman's home, my next-door neighbor. It's a 77-year-old woman that just had a stroke. The easement is split not down the middle, but across the driveway. So next to her home, I have photos of it, is 100% her property until it gets to a certain part in the back. Now she has a set of deck stairs right next to the driveway, which you can reach out this far, and the driveway is right there. So as far as privacy goes, it's the only access to the property. It's just crazy that it could be used as sort of for a commercial passing. I mean, there's no restrictions on, maybe the person has a Harley Davidson, maybe they have to go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, or they invite guests to the house itself, but it's this close to her driveway.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm trying to, be fair here. If someone had rented that property for a year and they had a motorcycle, what would we be able to do?
Which they did. No, because it's so, I don't know. We both knew the owners and the renters, both of us.
Yes.
Because it can probably be rented, I don't know what the law is, if it's every night, if short-term, every weekend.
Up to 30.
But what's the shortest term somebody could? One night. So
it's up to the owner.
Theoretically, it could be 365 days.
You could have a whole bike gang, one at a time, rent all in a row.
Yeah, but you could have so the chance of something being too noisy, too late at night, is pretty high.
If you could please send us those photos on your behalf and on her behalf, and if you could help her
Send it to the clerk.
send in comment.
Please.
She was supposed to be here tonight.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
She couldn't.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it's literally, the driveway is literally here.
Because we do, it just says that we have the right to refuse if they're not generally afforded a reasonable degree of privacy from view of occupants. So,
Right. So I appreciate you letting me speak.
Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
we accept
Were
money
you-
order.
Were you paying cash or charge?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Okay, so I'll make a motion to keep open the public hearing regarding short-term rental application 649 Lakes Road, SBL 29-1-341 to, the board want to go to May 20th, which is 2 weeks from now? Okay,
Sure.
May 20th, 2024 at 7 PM or immediately thereafter.
Poole, second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Next item is 4.6, which is the motion to keep open the, to open the continuation of the public hearing regarding short-term rental at 21 Front Street, SBL 16-3-1. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
So moved.
Cindy O'Shea. Just a reminder, you'll have 5 minutes.
Cindy O'Shea, 21 East Crossman Avenue in Monroe. So, hi, everybody. I just wanted to clarify, the last time I spoke, I wanted to make sure
Yes. I'm aware. Yep.
Okay? So at this point in time, I just think it's a little putting the cart before the horse if we ask for a short-term rental, and there are some items on their agenda that still need to be addressed according to the photo news. Mr. Conley has been working diligently into solving some of the problems that you can see on the survey here as to what's within his boundary lines and not within his boundary lines. And the access to the lake that we talked about, you know, is private and adjacent to his property, is something that still has to be addressed. The other issue is when I said it was a private little dead-end block, that doesn't mean that it has privacy. You know, these are small homes that have been converted. They used to be summer homes. Some have been expanded. It's also a draw, considerable draw on the sewer system that runs by the lake. Not this particular property, but all the property. I wanted to have some statistics from the sewer department. I called them today, but Marie was out till tomorrow on vacation, so I didn't get a response. Then the dock itself too, according to what I saw on the planning board meeting video, may be an issue that needs to be addressed. And again, noise is always our concern as neighbors in a quiet neighborhood. We would prefer a long-term rental. That noise travels across the lake at a much easier pace. Tony, I hear your parties across the lake on my side. So.
You were there. What are you talking about?
I was.
That's why you heard them.
Could be, you know. That big beach over there is, you know, again, an attractive nuisance, as all the beaches are. And the public one is on the lake, and I took advantage as a kid greatly. Again, just bringing up the trash issues that have been in the paper too, you know, short-term rentals, that usually makes more of a impact on the trash pickup that we're all concerned with the amount and size of. And I think, even though Mr. Conley said it's his primary residence, I drive past almost every day, maybe not on the weekends, I'll walk the dogs. And they, I think, are more of an absentee landlord than someone in residence, as to what I observed, in my humble opinion. So those are the issues, and I think that's everything.
So the garage and the shed for that property are not on his property?
Correct, but as the board, planning board was, and they're working with the neighbor, there was a conditional approval. But I don't know if it encompasses everything. Mr. Conley may not even know because he was represented by an attorney and a surveyor at that
Conley
meeting.
here tonight?
He is.
All right, good. So you could speak after.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
I have a question. Is it a condition that the lot lines should have been addressed before we opened?
I don't know if the condition.
Yeah.
You can indicate that you want it addressed as the board.
For the
before-
future.
It doesn't say it in this short-term
Okay.
rental code.
We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. Is he
That's
coming?
all for public comment.
He's coming up.
Good evening.
Jim Conley, 21 Front Street. I don't think the lot line necessarily has any impact on the short-term rental, as it wouldn't be included necessarily in the short-term rental. So everything has been approved from the short-term rental perspective. I've actually entered into an agreement with the neighbors to purchase the rest of that property.
Are they going to be using, and by they I mean the short-term renters, would they be using the dock and the beach?
The dock and the beach, I'm sure they would.
So
yes.
just the one that I have
That's
is-
part of it, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
outside.
but we're considering moving that over to, I mean, I could just tell them they can't use it, that's fine. But-
No, I'm just responding
No, I know,
to-
I've seen this.
Whoa, you're considering moving,
The dock over here.
oh, you're moving the dock,
We're
not the
considering-
line. Okay.
No, the line I'm moving, so this is my current line.
Draw where,
The line is gonna be to make everything compliant here. attorneys were here at the last meeting, which I guess was early.
Planning board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the lot lines are in question, but you've already addressed that by making amendments where you would not be renting outside the current lot lines.
The current lot line, no, we wouldn't rent outside the current lot line, but we are purchasing more lot line, and then that would be rented.
The only question I have, though, is your steps and patio and the deck are outside the line.
Yeah.
Right here.
Or
If
the
this
line
is-
goes right
Yeah.
through the
If
steps.
this is true,
Yeah, that's true.
No, that's not necessarily true currently. They actually laid out the lot line, and it was.
I thought it was the building inspector who, yeah. I thought that was in the law, that they reviewed this, no?
They
Prior?
review it. Your question was about the lot line issue being resolved, but they have to submit an application that
So
has
this
the
is
lots.
our-
I'm sorry?
This is our information as well, that we had before we opened this?
I don't know what you're looking at was in, yeah.
What did our building inspector send up as the lot lines, and is it the same as this?
I'd have to look at.
Yeah. Okay, because he's right, it's over your deck.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
we'll.
If this is right.
Well, we can put a divider there that they can cross out. I mean, that's it. I mean, our lot line. our
What is it,
current lot
War
line-
of the Roses? That's gonna be your rental, or they just put duct tape down the middle
No,
and you
there's plenty
can't
of- there's
cross?
There's plenty of, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's like a fence, right?
how long do you think you'll be before the planning board?
I was told that everything went fine with the planning board. They just had one or two little small amendments in front of the planning board to get the remainder of the.
Okay,
of the lot
because
line.
my concern is that, every T's dotted, T's crossed, I's dotted. So I'd like to keep this open.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. I just like.
Yeah, I know you're frustrated, I get it, but you got to look at,
That's why I heard the main concern was privacy, and I think we have more privacy than anybody has in all of Monroe. So it's
in
just a
some sense, I agree with you, in some sense, I don't. But
Yeah.
but what I'd like to do is hold this off to the first meeting in June, and then possibly I'll talk to the building inspector, and I'll get him to write his assessment of the lot line and see where we are. And then if you can have your attorney send us, or your engineer, send our town clerk a copy of the new survey with the way the lot line is going to be extended, that would be, appreciated.
All right.
All right?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, thank you very much. Yep. Okay, so I'll make a motion to keep open the continuation of public hearing for short-term rental application at 21 Front Street, SBL 16-3-1 to June 3rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. or immediately thereafter.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Next up is a motion to open the public hearing regarding the short-term rental application at 13 Ruby Road, SBL 35-2-2.1. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Anybody sign up to speak?
James Haran?
Good evening, board member. Is this on? It's on.
Yeah, should be on.
Okay. James Horan from the law firm of J&G Law, appearing on behalf of the Koppelmans, the owners of 13 Ruby Road. So there's an application that has been submitted. My understanding is that the building inspector had deemed it to be complete. There was a letter that was filed in opposition. The letter references an easement, which is actually just a maintenance declaration regarding the maintenance obligations for Ruby.
See if that mic's on, please. I'm sorry.
Sure.
It's on. Okay, thanks, George. All right, it's
Okay.
on.
So with respect to Ruby Road is a private road. Two houses, 13 and 14 Ruby Road, gain access from the private road. Ruby Road also provides a right-of-way to the lake for the Yoga Society, which is up on Sapphire. Again, there's no limitation as to the use of the property in the right-of-way agreement. It says that it's permitted to use it for any residential purposes. This is a single-family residence. With respect to the privacy issue, there is the two driveways for 13 and 14 face each other. So there is a very dense evergreen, I won't say wall, but line of evergreens on the front of this property along Ruby Road. The only break is for the driveway, which is facing the house on the opposite side. With respect to the house on the opposite side, they're approximately 150 feet apart. And again, the two front yards of the houses faced each other. The entertainment aspects of both properties are to the rear yard of the properties. So there's a deck on the rear of 14 Ruby, and there's a swimming pool here. For 13. So there's a deck and a swimming pool. Any activity at the property would be buffered by the house regarding the adjacent property owner who had complained. There's a lake to the rear with really no houses on the lake. Behind the property is vacant space. It's probably 500 feet or more to any other structures back there. It's the only issue is this one particular house. And again, they face each other. There was a complaint that was made by the neighbor in August of 2022, I believe, regarding residents that the property owner had used, had a short-term rental in the past. The complaining neighbor had made notes, made his objections felt to Mr. Kopelman. Based on that, there are house rules here that have been adopted, which he intends to use going forward. The limitation, it's a 3-bedroom house. There would be no more than 12 people at the property, with, I think, one other guest permitted. There's no outside parties who would be permitted there. There's no amplification of music that would be permitted. It's a very secluded area, but for the one house. So, that's the only issue at play here. And, realistically, there's respectfully no real difference between the occupation of this house as by a family versus short-term rental. The Koppelmans intend to use the house as a summer residence, so from time to time, probably all during the month of July. So they're only looking to rent it to get income while they're not using it.
Time's up, sorry.
Okay.
Questions, concerns? I know the only question I believe that came up last meeting was the aspect of the house in proximity to Blythedale Lake.
So there's, I did a quick look. There's a dock, a floating dock on the lake that's been there. The lake is pretty small, or pretty shallow. So About you, all you could really get on the lake is a kayak. And in the summertime, when the lake levels are low, you probably can't even get that. So,
Bless you.
you know, basically, it's not really, nobody's really going to be swimming in it. It's pretty shallow. About the only activities really that would be contemplated on the lake would probably be kayaks.
I would like to request, even though your description was very accurate and magnificent, and I felt like I was there, some photos of the property, if you could submit them, just to confirm if there are any complaints from the neighbors, so that the privacy and the shrubbery is all where, as described, just so that we can do our due diligence that way.
Okay.
Else?
We did have a request that one of the neighbors is not able to be.
Problem with that because Richardson requested pictures, so back that request with the neighbor who couldn't be here tonight.
Oh, and you said there was also a copy of house rules that you were employing?
Yeah, it's in the application. That's a requirement.
It's with us already?
Okay. It's a requirement of the application package, my
Yes.
understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion to keep open the continuation of the public hearing for 13 Ruby Road, SBL 35-2-2.1 until May 20th, 2024 at 7 p.m. or immediately thereafter.
Bingham will second.
Call the question.
Aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
moved. Thank you very much. Okay. Next up is the acceptance, 5.1, the acceptance of April 15th, 2024 minutes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Pool second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
So moved. Into the order of claims, item 6.1 from the general fund abstract. I will make a motion, be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Monroe requests approval of abstract 24-05 from the general fund containing checks 35100 through 35255, totaling $575,580.82. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Item 6.2 is the escrow fund abstract. I'll make a motion, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Monroe requests approval of abstract 24-02 escrow funds containing checks 2134 through 2139 totaling $52,400.43.
Bingham will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Item 7.1 is a cash transfer abstract. Be it resolved, Town Board of Town of Monroe made a motion to approve abstract 2024-02 to move cash back to funds from New York Class Investments to cover future expenditures in 2024 totaling $430,000.
Bingham will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Item 8.1 is a budget transfer abstract. I'll make a motion, be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Monroe approves a budget transfer abstract totaling abstract number 2024-10 totaling $5,600 for unexpected expenses for Meraki firewall software licenses.
Pool second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Pool eye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Before we get into new business, it was an error on my part. I forgot to acknowledge something. So if we could please rise for a second. The past week has been a little difficult for our community. We had a fundraiser for a young man named Aiden King. Aiden passed away. His services were Wednesday. The love from our community was phenomenal. It was nice to see all the people that attended. So we would have a brief moment of silence. Sorry about that.
Supervisor, if you're going into new business, can we put item 9.13 first? Because Mr. Campanella is here, and I
I know
told...
it's way past Paul's bedtime, so we can, come on up, Paul.
Okay, while he's coming up, I just want to read something very quickly. Since 1950, Museum Village has served Monroe, Orange County, New York, and the surrounding areas. Hundreds of thousands of visitors have enjoyed experiencing a taste of life in America during the 1800s. I would bet that many of you have rich memories of visiting the museum as children and returning again with your own children or grandchildren. Museum Village has been a cornerstone of historical education in the lower Hudson Valley for over 70 years. Museum Village is an independent 501c3 educational museum. It is chartered by the Regents through the Department of Education of the State of New York and run under the statutes that guide educational institutions. Traditionally, Museum Village has been funded solely by visitorship and private donations. It has operated without local, state, or federal support. However, times have changed. There has been a decrease in corporate giving due to mergers, a trend towards private foundations rather than individual donors, and recently the lowest charitable giving trend in over 50 years. The last 2 years, Museum Village has attempted to operate on nearly the same budget as the mid-1970s. The situation has put Museum Village at a pivotal point. We need the support to continue to serve our community. With your support, we can provide year-round programming and protection for our historical artifact collections. We can also want to preserve and maintain the popular Village Green structures that are the centerpiece of Museum Village experience. Making these improvements will take time and support from the public and private funding, time and support that the museum does not have without direct and immediate action. The next 3 years are critical to the future of Museum Village. We have a new vision, a revitalization mission, and a strategic plan to ensure that we meet the new needs of a changing community, but that service cannot happen without the support of local community, individuals, organizations, and civic enterprises. Thank you for your time and consideration. And this was written by Jamie Robinson, the executive director and members of the Board of Trustees of Museum Village of Old Smith Clove, and that's why Paul Campanella is here, because they are trying to raise some funds through Hudson Valley Gives. So if you could address that, that would be great.
So thank you. Thank you, Annette. Thanks for having me come up. May 15th, I don't know if you realize this, but the last few years, the Community Foundation of Sullivan and Orange County runs twice a year a Day of Giving. And we've been able to participate with them the last 2 years. We've generated a little bit of money that way, and it shows promise that we could generate more. So we're hoping to reach out to the local towns and villages to say, look, would you support having your citizens participate? And it's what the Community Foundation of Sullivan and Orange does is they have a program where if you can get certain amount of donations on May, for us now it's going to be May 15th, that they have different programs where they will match and sometimes double the donation that comes in from the public. So we're hoping that we can get a little boost here. We're hoping we could raise $20,000 over the next month. The program goes on till the end of the month, but the Day of Giving is May 15th.
So you're looking for us to help push it out there?
We're looking for you to help us push it out there. We're going to have something you could put on, we hope, on your web page or your Facebook page, and maybe you could promote it.
Absolutely.
You know, and if any of you care to donate, we're always...
Yeah, you wouldn't stop us.
We'd always encourage you to set an example. But I've been on that board now 20 years.
Thank you for your service there.
This is going to be my last year. This is my last month.
I've heard that before.
You've heard that before.
Charlie taking over?
No. Charlie wants to take over, yeah. We don't do that together. But it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. We have a new executive director. He's been in place a year. He's a real, true museum and history guy. He understands what we're trying to do. He understands that it's 75 years for Museum Village to be where it is. We're coming up on the, let's see if I get this right, the semi-sesquicentennial.
Don't ask me. I don't know. 5 years. Sounds right.
Listen, I'm going to agree with you, Paul.
250 years, and 150 years ago it was the 1876 was the centennial. So, and if you look at the politics of what goes on in 1876, we look at all the turmoil going on. It's 100 years later, 150 years later, and saying, here it comes again. It's the same turmoil. You go read the politics of what was going on.
We have internet.
We have internet.
And we have hot water.
Yeah.
So it's better. It's good.
Okay, so that's it. We're going to send you a little link. I hope we can put it up there and promote it with us.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank
your
you,
time.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
You have my email?
Yes.
So send it to the clerk and myself, and we'll get it out on
I think I have
the constant
Valerie's.
contact and the website.
I have all of you. It's good.
All right.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Supervisor, I'd like to make a resolution that the town of Monroe actually support Museum Village by making a donation of, I'd say $500. It would have to come from contingency because I don't think we have anything already budgeted.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay?
As much as I would love to do that, I'm going to defer to the attorney because I don't believe we're allowed to give to nonprofits.
Generally not. There are times when, in certain cases under law, you can, and other cases where there's a direct benefit. I'm not familiar enough with this organization to say whether or not it would qualify. You generally, like the Museum Village itself, for a historical purpose, the town, could donate under the Arts and Cultural Affairs law through the historian, or you could contract for a service, but a direct donation is typically not permitted, unless we have some kind of agreement or there's a service in exchange type of situation. And I don't know the relationship here or the organization.
Yeah, so can we, are you saying that we can't give directly to the Hudson Valley Gives organization, but we can directly to Museum Village?
More likely, the Museum Village,
Okay.
you could, through the historian, provisions of the Arts and Cultural Affairs law. I don't know enough about Hudson Valley Gives to say whether or not, it'd be a question of what's the benefit, what do they do, what are we, as the town, getting out of that?
I'll change the motion that we donate $500 for historical, what's the exact term?
Why don't we make a motion to donate $500 to Museum Village, for subject to review and approval by town council?
Okay, that's the
That's
motion.
the one.
There it is.
That's the
I'll-
one.
Second.
Sal's got it, second it. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
That's good.
Okay, so moved.
Thank
All right,
you.
you're welcome. Next up is item 9.1, which is a zone change petition for project number 230160. It is, the letter was received from Lankin Tully, and Lankin Tully is here. Are you David Higgins?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right, nice to meet you. So I'll let you do the talking. Just for full disclosure, Nick Gordon, who owns a landscape business, his father and himself, I've used them for approximately 10 years. So I just wanted out there that there is that business relationship there. And counsel, if you feel I have to abstain, you let me know.
I don't see it at this point.
Okay.
First question is whether the board wants to consider the amendment and where you want to go with it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. And good evening again, and thanks for having me on the agenda tonight. Again, David Higgins from Lankatelli Engineering and Surveying, and I'm here on behalf of Nick Gordon and Alice Serpy, who's the owners of the property, tax lot 3-1-25, which is located at 2 Stairway. You may know the property best as the Masterclass Pistol Range. The application that we have before the board is for a requested change in the zoning, and the reason that we're requesting this, the applicant is requesting this, is because Mrs. Serpy, the owner, had received a building permit for a garage on the property back in 2016. When she was issued the permit for the garage, it was essentially an accessory building for the pistol range. And she had used that in that capacity for some period of time. And then over time, the need for that with the pistol range and to house the equipment for the pistol range became less and less. So Mrs. Serpy then leased the building, the use of the building, to Nick Gordon. The building department had issued a notice of violation in June of 2023 because the building was not permitted for such use. So Nick Gordon had retained Lancatelli to prepare a site plan map to submit to the planning board, which we did do in December of 2023. And as part of the planning board's review, the planning board attorney advised that the use of the garage, which is a landscape or contractor yard for storage of materials, is not permitted in the general business district. And that the applicant had basically two options in terms of utilizing the garage building, and that was to either obtain a use variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals or to petition the town board to change the zoning district, which is the option that the applicant has made. I know I had provided some mapping along with the application, and essentially what we had showed in the mapping was that the light industry and the heavy industry zoning districts are in that general vicinity of the site. There was a vicinity map that showed that, and also a map that we showed that essentially that the parcels that were in the GB district were fairly limited. There is on this vicinity of the property, general business district. There's also a small portion of the general business district that's located down 17M, essentially to the village of Harriman. And the reason that we did that was because the landscape and contractor storage is a permitted use with a special use permit in both the heavy industry and the light industry district. So the petition that we're asking the town board to do is to consider changing the GB district to allow the landscape or contractor storage yard in the GB district as it is in the light industry and the heavy industry districts.
Questions?
Why didn't you go to the ZBA?
Well, I do know that the threshold for a use variance is somewhat, it's not easy to establish. I mean, we may be able to do that, and you know, that may be something the applicant does if the town board turns down the petition. We may well wind up going to the ZBA to request a variance. They may approve it, or they may deny it. So we just haven't gotten there.
The master class shooters is still in operation, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Is that allowed in the HI or LI districts?
I didn't check that.
You should, because I don't think it is.
We're not asking to change the
Yeah, they're
property.
not asking to change, yeah. Go ahead.
You
Oh,
just
that is
want-
how it was phrased, and that's what I was concerned about as
Right.
well. Like, when you're verbally speaking, it did convey to me as well that you were asking your total zone to be changed, but you're asking, then I heard a second time that you're asking for the garage use in your current district. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry if that wasn't
Okay.
clear, but yes, we're asking that that be added to, as a permitted
Okay.
use in the GB district.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, that was,
Do we know for how long that garage has been used as to lease to a commercial business?
I don't know offhand, no.
Okay.
And the other thing I probably should mention also is I understand that the property that's located adjacent to this property and just east of this property is also is used similarly. They have, they just received a violation notice from the building department for that as well. And they were directed to have a site plan application submitted to the planning board, which they requested that we do, and we have not done that just yet. But in part because we know that if we go to the planning board with an application for that, we'll be in the same situation that we are here. The planning board can't approve that use in that district unless the town board changes the district or unless we go to get variances from the ZBA.
So it's the fact that you're using the garage just for not a listed use. Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Nugent, what guidance do we have for interpreting this as like or limitations in the sections?
Yeah, so there, it's in the zoning. Your section on amendments is one paragraph. It's kind of scarce, so you don't have a whole lot. But typically, first, zoning amendments are completely at the discretion of the town board. They're not mandatory. You're not required to even consider it. If you do wish to consider it, then it's a matter of the process you want to follow. And for example, a case like this, it's one parcel. You may decide to have the planner review it and, give you a recommendation and, his thoughts, because you would need to amend the use table for this zone to add this use that's being sought. And it would also be a referral case to Orange County Planning, because this parcel is within 500 feet of the town of Blooming Grove, so it would...
Do we have to do an EAF too?
Yeah, and we need a Part 1 EAF, which is not in submission.
It strikes me that the language would have to be specific, because otherwise we may authorize just having shooting ranges in garages. But we want it to be...
That's why I'd recommend the planner.
As a result of that specific business that's already licensed, operated, everything like that. That's kind of a specific...
Yeah, that's why I'd recommend the planner review, to make
Okay.
sure that we're limiting it, and you could give that direction to him. If it's, again, something the board wishes to move forward, at least for consideration.
So we have to set a public hearing then?
Yeah, and to amend the zoning, it would follow the normal local law process, so you would set a public hearing. There would be, in this case, you're just really going to have a draft revision of the table, in this district showing the use. That really is the change, and maybe some part of the text, which the planner can do. And then you would have a public hearing, and you'd wait for the GML comments from the county, and then SECRA, and you'd move forward in the typical process.
Nugent, do you think it might be expeditious if they went to the ZBA? They might get either approved or disapproved faster versus our process of holding the public hearings and doing our due diligence?
I would say that they'll get disapproved faster, possibly, yes.
Through the ZBA.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
they're going to get a use variance. It's like Mr. Higgins mentioned, it's a very difficult standard to get a use variance, to meet.
But then we have to spend money with mailings.
No, the applicant would pay for
Oh, okay, good.
No, they do.
Yeah, they would pay expenses like for our review, the planner's review, and, the cost of mailing, they typically would handle that and pay for it.
So you're comfortable with that?
I imagine that my clients are, yes.
Good.
All right. Motion?
Motion that we have a public hearing. Want to do it in
Third, yeah.
June 3rd at 7 p.m. or immediately thereafter to discuss the possibility of a use variance for... It's a zoning
Zoning
change.
change.
To discuss the possibility of a
Zoning amendment.
zoning amendment.
I would just recommend making part of that motion, referring it to the town's planner to prepare the documents necessary.
And to refer the request to the town's planner to review the documents as necessary.
Okay. Do we have a second? Call the question.
Bingham, nay.
Cardone, aye.
All aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay.
Hagan, just get us that EAF as soon as possible so we can send that with the planner.
Will do. All right,
Yeah.
thank you for your time tonight.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay. Item 9.2 is a resolution appointing Kristen Sikoriak to the position of Recreation Coordinator, May 7th, 2024, effective May 7th, 2024. Kristen has been in the position provisionally and is qualified for a permanent appointment based on the certified list of eligible examination, of eligibles, examination number 66548, Recreation Coordinator provided by Orange County Department of Human Resources.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone,
aye.
aye. No, but you going to take the rest of them.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Next up is item 9.3.
Yes, so item 9.3, I'd like to make a resolution authorizing the position change for Town of Monroe employee Jonathan Novak from seasonal labor for the Maintenance Department to full-time labor for the Maintenance Department, working at reduced hours effective May 7th, 2024.
Second. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved.
Excellent.
Do you hear that?
Item 9.4, I make a motion that we approve Christopher McDermott for the position of seasonal laborer for the Maintenance Department at an hourly rate of $20 effective May 7th, 2024. His employment period not to exceed 9 months. Christopher has been pre-approved for this position by Orange County Department of Human Resources.
Bingham will second.
Question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
So moved.
And we're hiring lots of people today. I make another motion that we approve Catherine O'Boyle for the position of seasonal laborer in the Maintenance Department at an hourly rate of $20 effective May 8th, 2024. Her employment period not to exceed 9 months. Catherine has been pre-approved for this position by Orange County Department of Human Resources.
Second.
Call the question.
Call the question.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
And another appointment, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Cameron Rubio for the position of seasonal laborer for the Maintenance Department at an hourly rate of $20 effective May 9th, 2024. His employment period not to exceed 9 months. Cameron has been pre-approved for this position by Orange County Department of Human Resources.
Second it.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. All right, item 9.7 is the end of the probation period for Lucas Moran of the Highway Department. Highway Superintendent Patterson.
Yes, I asked the board to remove Lucas from his probation. He has been an asset already, and he's continuing on being an asset. He's going to actually, when he finishes up his CDL, he's going to water school. So he's really a driven employee. So.
I'll make a motion to remove Lucas Moran in the Highway Department from the probationary period.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
So moved. Okay, Conservation Commission resignation. We received a letter of resignation from Mario Gutierrez from the Town of Monroe Conservation Commission, slot number 3, effective March 31st, 2024. I'll make that motion.
I regretfully
To accept
second.
Yeah,
it?
second for discussion, just to thank Mario for being an active part of the town and being a great support and for volunteering in the first place, and we'll miss him.
Yes, absolutely.
Hear, hear.
Okay, call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Next up, we have a planning board reservation. Another sad day here with the planning board. Resignation of Nicholas Napoli from the Town of Monroe Planning Board, slot number 1, effective May 2nd, 2024. Nick is a neighbor of mine, and he's actually moving out of Monroe. So, I make that motion.
Second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay.
Item 9.10, we have received a grant from the Orange County Department of Tourism for our food truck festival for the amount of $4,999. This is the maximum allowance that can be allocated to any event in Orange County. So I'd like to make a motion authorizing the supervisor to execute the municipal tourism grant agreement with Orange County. And this has been allocated for the town's 2024 food truck festivals and the community trunk or treat event.
I'll second that.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Excellent.
That's great news.
It is great news.
Great.
It is great. Number 9.11, we've been talking about the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG grant application. So we'll be moving forward with applying for a grant, a CDBG grant, to replace the existing sidewalks that are in disrepair in the Horizon Heights development in the town of Monroe. This is the development that is off of West Monbassia Road. So I'd like to authorize the supervisor to sign and submit the fiscal year 2025 Community Development Block Grant for the application for the replacement of existing sidewalks in disrepair in the Horizon Heights development in the town of Monroe.
Bingham will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Next up is the, sorry, because I'm on.
9.12.
back. Excuse me?
9.12.
No, I know what's up. I have to find it. Give me a second.
It's for the fireworks.
Yeah, it's for the fireworks. So, in the past, we've donated or helped support the Village of Monroe fireworks. Our donation or monetary contribution comes out of the B Fund. And I did not check with Roberta from last year. I see Trustee Carl in the audience. Was the number we gave last year 7,500? Yeah. Okay. All right. I would like to up that to $8,000 this year.
We get to light some of them.
Excuse me?
Only if we get to light some of them ourselves. Sal, I knew, was going to jump right up at that, and he did.
We budgeted a little bit higher number in the celebrations in the B Fund. It's at $14,000. So, especially with the grant we received, I think we can afford another $500. So I'm going to make a motion to approve an $8,000 contribution to the Independence Day fireworks in the Village of Monroe.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is 914, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. So we need a resolution committing to the utilization of local funds to provide the required match of $52,237.50, or 25% of the total project cost, should the town's application, which is the Town of Monroe Generator Project, to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, be approved. Town is seeking funding for the purchase of 3 generators to equip critical facilities in the community, to include Water District Number 2, Water District Number 14, and Monroe Town Hall. So I'll make that motion.
Bingham will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Town of Monroe landfill annual post-closure monitoring. We need a, Dory, can you do this?
Yep. So this is something that we do annually, authorizing the supervisor to sign the proposal submitted by Sterling Environmental Engineering, PC, to conduct the annual Town of Monroe landfill post-closure monitoring program. The estimated cost for the 2024 PCM program is, $9,645. And and that will be broken up into water quality monitoring for a cost of $4,225, explosive gas survey for a cost of $625, laboratory analyses, 9 samples and 1 trip blank for $2,610, and data evaluation, prepare a letter report and New York State DEC Region 3 annual report form for $2,185 for a total of $9,645.
Bingham will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved. Next up is the, you're gonna have to do this one too, because it's a resolution. Here.
All right, very good. So last year, I believe, was the first year that we provided an ATM at the Food Truck Festival, right? And I think it was very beneficial for everyone who was there. So I'd like to make a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign the general agreement pertaining to the ATM and merchant services for the Town of Monroe Food Truck Festival on June 15th, 2024. Do we know what that, there's usually a dollar fee associated with that.
$25 surcharge, is that what you're referring to?
No, usually it's much less than that. It's
You mean
usually like a
per
$3.
charge? It says $3.25 per
Okay.
surcharge transaction.
Yes,
So it'll be split between $1 to the town and
Yep.
$2
Yep,
to
so-
the company.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So,
I will second that.
excellent. Call the question?
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Cool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Next up is the legislation to establish community preservation funds. This is what County Executive Newhouse was talking about. So there is a resolution in front of you. So I'm going to make a motion that we pass a resolution supporting the preservation fund, which the county has taken the lead agency on.
Second for discussion. I had many conversations over the past 2 years with the state legislature on this. I actually had a meeting with State Senator Skoufis wherein I received a memo essentially saying that because I did not at that time know that this was up for a county-wide proposal again. So basically, if we are going to be following this process, and if Monroe is interested in this process, I see 3 use cases where, this county-wide one does not pass for some reason, or it does, that Monroe, if, it does not pass, that Monroe would then express interest in an individual community, plan and PDR legislation of its own, or that may not pass if we did that as well, because it's a politically contentious, the governor and everything like that has not passed similar legislation through Chester and through, I believe, Blooming Grove. But our discussions with Chris Ekis and with State Senator Skoufis has just led me to want to make a subsequent motion that we, as the town of Monroe, authorize talks with our planner to engage in the...
We have a motion before us, so let's...
I know, but so if we approve this one,
Yes.
you can tell me how to order it, but I'm just telling you, 'cause I am new, so let me know how to organize this. But the subsequent motion that I would like to bring after this, or as a result of this, is that we authorize with Max Stack, our planner, to engage in the next step in anticipation of any of those 3 use cases to create a community preservation plan, which I believe will be a requirement of the process as a guide, and has always been a requirement of the process as a guide on how to allocate those funds as sort of a comprehensive plan with input from the public, but specifically for how these preservation funds would be spent. So I would like to do that if we are going to approve this.
Okay, call the question on the first motion.
I need a second.
Oh, second, Bingham will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Cool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
So in response to your
Well, I
additional
seconded for
request.
discussion, so, and then I made a subsequent motion, so I don't know.
Now you have to make that motion official, saying that
Okay,
you
how would we
Max
like to word that? The subsequent motion to engage Max Stack with the intention of creating a community preservation plan in anticipation of any eventuality with the county, Monroe, or without, for guidance for preservation. It's called a community preservation plan.
Who will second?
Discussion. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Cool, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Okay, item 9.18, Village of South Blooming Grove Notice of Intent, Lead Agency Amendment of Chapter 235 of their Village Code.
Yeah, I think we need to be an interested agency, Mr. Nugent. You had sent a couple of emails back and forth, and you had outlined a few items that we could include in the letter.
Yeah, that's correct. We can, if the board would like, send a letter requesting to be listed as an interested agency on this, and then there were some deficiencies, the main one being that they sent a full EAF form with a negative declaration, which is kind of contrary to the very purpose of a notice of intent, is to send part one, see if who's interested, and then go through the secret process. So you really can't issue a negative declaration at the outset. So I think we need to address that in the letter as well.
So the motion would be for Mr. Nugent to follow through with the South Blooming Grove notice of intent to list us as an interested agency, and to also to list any deficiencies noted in that publication.
I'll second it.
But, oh, sorry, second for discussion, or discussion after his second. Would that also be the appropriate or the exact same time to express comments about Councilwoman Bingham's further notes about overlays and things, or as the process develops, that's...
Yeah, I think you would do that in the process, because once, until the lead agency is established, then, you know, which is probably going to be the village, it's their zoning code, then we would respond as part of the process to say, we believe this is a bad idea or whatever else.
So
And
this
there
is
will
just setting up that we want to be an interested party?
Yeah, because they're going to have public hearings, since it's an amendment to the law, and then you would want your comments on that record in the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye.
Oh, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, item 9.19 is the Govolution Building Department credit card processing. The building department has expressed an interest in authorizing a change in the credit card payment processor, and they want to go to Govolution. The current vendors does not support the integration of the new MGO permitting program the town has migrated to. So the fee structure would be $2.5% on all brand cards with a $2 minimum. HSC is an option as well, and the fee would be a flat $2 per check. So I'll make a motion. Well, I'm sorry. Somebody's going to make a motion authorizing me to sign it.
Make a motion authorizing the supervisor to execute the master subscription agreement for MGO and the building department.
No, Govolution.
Oh, Govolution and the building department.
I'll second.
Discussion? Al, is that the company you use, or is this totally separate? Because
That's
his is
separate.
related to his software program.
It's probably related to his
To
software
his software,
program.
thank you.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye.
Oh, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, item 9.20, it's a motion that the Town Board of Town of Monroe makes a motion approving the 2024 Standard Workday Reporting Resolution for Judge Jim McKnight. Do I have a second?
Full will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, next up is 9.21 is a request for a fundraiser to benefit the Monroe Lakeside Fire and Rescue. They've had two of these already. It's a garage sale fundraiser that Lakeside Fire and Rescue would like to have on Saturday, September 7th. They will try to get a porta potty donated like last year. They will have one either way. And they'll have a grill again to sell hot dogs and burgers. Last year was run very smooth. They would require the town or the police to place no parking signs on Reynolds Road, which would be the village. So residents do not complain about the parking. A certificate of insurance will need to be provided by both Lakeside Fire and Rescue and the porta potty, along with the yard sale permit to be issued by the Village of Monroe. I'll make that motion.
Second for discussion. John, do you know if the Cheese Festival is being planned again for September? Do you know which weekend that is?
Oh, I thought it was the 14th. 14th.
I thought it was also after the 11th, but I'm not. Let's look it up.
I have a save the date, Saturday, September 14th, rain date, Saturday, September 21st.
Okay, good, so then they won't conflict.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Call the question?
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Next up, we approved this. The clerk had attended her NISTICA conference, April 21st to 24th. We approved up to $1,000. I don't know, she was driving all over town creating more miles, so she went $42.76 over the $1,000. So I'll make a motion to approve that increase.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Conditional that she doesn't eat or walk on the next one.
Bingham.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay, so moved.
Supervisor?
What's that? All right,
Thank you,
thank you.
John.
Okay.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Can I say something under new business?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I just want the general public to know and to encourage everybody out there to sign up for that Recyclable Coach app. Out of my office, Angelina worked her butt off to get this app up and running. She was in the grindstone. Anybody that walked into the office saw what she was doing. It's not just we snap our fingers in its air. She had to put addresses. She had to separate town, villages. She knows there's 5,239 garbage customers in the town of Monroe. But please sign up for that, and I'm hoping to get her at a town board meeting at a later date to explain it.
Okay.
So to simplify
And
it.
I know she took the initiative on getting this started.
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So just so the general public knows, if you don't know where to throw a hairspray can, you type in hairspray on the app, and it'll tell you it's garbage, not recyclable. It's an amazing program that just came out. So
Where do you throw your hairspray?
Jill. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat.
Can we add the authorization to have Mr. Nugent look into the lead telecom cables that we've been discussing, either under new or old? Not sure which category that would go under, since we've been discussing it.
There's a lot of ramifications about it, whether the wire's up high, whether it's buried, whether it's in use, whether it's not in use. I mean, more research has to be done on that before we authorize the attorney to look into it.
I think that was what we were discussing, was that Mr. Nugent would start by asking the telecom companies to identify the unused and where they are located.
Sorry, because it wasn't a second, that's why. Are you
Yeah.
in discussion of a motion, or are you just in discussion?
Oh, we're just in discussion. Go ahead, make a motion, Councilwoman Richardson.
So I'll say motion to, motion to authorize Mr. Nugent to investigate the lead telecom wires with any associated companies who have done work in Monroe.
Okay, I'll second it. Call the question.
Bingham, aye?
Scancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Poole, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Us? No.
Oh, I thought you were taking.
I didn't bring it up, so
Did I say discuss, or did I just said motion to authorize? I
Yeah,
think we
I
just
thought that
authorized
was
it.
a motion, so
So I think one of the pieces that we'll need will be the ghost poles. Do we have a listing of ghost poles, Pat?
Yes, we have a listing of ghost poles, and if you have seen around that Frontier has actually been removing the ghost poles. I believe it was 2 weeks ago, I really put my foot down with them. And part of it was because of the lack of response to the poll that you sent me the information on.
Yeah, it was cracked in half.
Yeah, it was horrible again, and I do have a list of all of the polls that are there. Mainly people that are in charge of polls are Frontier and Orange and Rockland.
Now, are there wires attached to these poles, or are they vacant poles?
They're wires that are supposed to have been moved to the new poles, but they've never got moved. So that's what Frontier is doing right now.
So zombie poles are definitely a component because I know there are ones just hanging out with nothing on them, presenting a danger of falling over that are not shored up. There's also ones that it seems like the cables are not even active, but we don't have answers of which they're using and which they're not and which should have been moved. But specifically, what we're looking to have Mr. Nugent investigate was as a result of a conference I went to. Thank you to Pat Ryan and Cornwall Town Hall for inviting me to that, and Cornwall Cleanup Crew, where they basically found, I don't know if this was an underground cable. I think it actually just fell down. It was an old telecom cable that was sheathed in lead, that was not being used for many years, that was just laying in the dirt by a waterway, left to degrade and, seep lead into the waterway. So if we could get some information, whatever their response is, or not necessarily Verizon, but a list of where the telecom wires that are obsolete, that are not in use, it would aid, I think, also Pat in his exploration of zombie poles. And get those, it would tie in, because anything that's not being used, you'd know and be able to have them and push them into.
Why don't you give Councilwoman Richardson the contacts you have at Frontier, and she could do some research on it?
Yeah, that'd be wonderful, because I feel like this is just to authorize Mr. Nugent to be able to look into it, and then the responses that we get back are gonna inform further action. So it's just to get this rolling and started.
Sorry, because are looking at the lead and zombie pole information, or?
So obsolete cables are the ones that really
Have the lead.
are the lead, but yes, if you could do both at the same time.
Right, obviously, the zombie pole applies to all
Yes.
transfer of any wires, so that, we have a law
Yes.
for that obviously already, but are we looking to get information from them on what poles are being transitioned out or may not?
Do you have that information? Do you want to authorize him to do that at the same time with, and push or advocate for Verizon
My list,
or telecom companies? I don't mean to call out Verizon. Can you hear me now?
my list on zombie poles includes both villages in town, 250 poles is what it is, that poles that are just by themselves or have wires that have to be transferred on them is what that list is.
So you're aware of what wires need to be transferred at this time?
The wires, yes, but who owns them? No.
Okay, so I think
Because-
that would be something to keep alongside whatever investigative work we're doing, is that we want the obsolete wires, the unused wires gone regardless, because I think, as you had mentioned, it presents a safety hazard if no one is managing them and no one is using them, regardless if they're sheathed in lead. They shouldn't be there. They're a scenic intrusion. You walk down the street and the beautiful mountain view, I have to Photoshop, if I'm taking photographs, the wires out of the photos everywhere I go. So it would be good, I think, as a town-wide initiative to just eliminate the obsolete wires for many reasons. So
That's all part of that zombie pole law, that's what they're working on now.
Excellent. All right.
that answer you?
Yeah, so I guess the question is, do I need to address, if you already have the list, or we can still ask them for obsolete wires, or?
I think specifically for this case, you would need to ask them if they have cataloged lead cables.
Well, that part I got,
yeah.
I'm just talking about the zombie pole part of it, because that's in addition and independent, so that's why I'm asking that question.
Pat's already addressed that with them, but maybe you want to follow up and address it one more time.
That's fine, I'll touch base with Pat.
All right.
My experience with lead, which came from Highland Falls, which was, and John, I don't know if you have any in the village, but you know a lead telephone line when you see it. It's probably around 1.5 inches round, and it's an ugly sight on a pole, and I don't believe we have any of that hanging from what I've seen here so far, but it would probably be good just to ask them. So.
Question.
And we authorized?
I think we authorized it, to be quite honest with you. We authorized it and then we discussed it.
We're good.
All right,
Motion was to authorize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just making sure everything's in order.
Yep.
Okay? All right, next item. Item 10.1 under old business is the declaration of easement for the Lake Sapphire Dam. So I'll make a motion to approve the declaration of easement, which was prepared by council, and it will be approved in final form, approved by council.
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
In my copy, I did not see a Schedule A, so when you have that final form,
Yeah,
just
Brian,
have that Schedule A.
Yeah, there is a
included.
Schedule A, which is the drainage district boundaries, meets and bounds, but I mentioned that to the supervisor today that it wasn't attached here, so we can get that to the board. If you want,
Do we do condition or?
Oh, we'll just get the Schedule A attached to it. There's no-
Okay.
Yeah, the
no
Schedule A,
need.
I can tell you, is the meets and bounds of the existing drainage district, Lake Sapphire Drainage District. It's the same boundary which the board has already established, but we just didn't have it attached in this executive content.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye?
Cancarello, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Full aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Next up, 10.2, Town of Monroe social media policy.
I think we wanted to motion this into executive session, if there is an existing executive session tonight.
There were no attachments, so it would have to be attorney-client or executive session.
Okay, public comment.
Carol Hawkshurst.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Carol Hawkshurst Road. It's going to be brief, what I have to say, but important because there is positive going on in Monroe, and I think Monroe needs to hear more about that. And I want to thank Steve Thau and the Girl Scout.
Ellie Imhoff?
Yes, and all the volunteers that were there putting together the raised garden beds. I think that's amazing, and that shows spirit in our community, and we need more of that. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
you.
very much.
Great to hear positive.
On Carl.
Good evening.
Evening.
I have a couple things I'd like to touch base with the board. First, the garbage district. The Village of Monroe has done a FOIL requesting information regarding tonnage, scope of work. I received on the 3rd of April, basically a letter from Valerie's office. The document was provided by Morangi during a meeting, and the town of Monroe does not have a copy of it. Morangi has been trying to locate it. This is a multi-million-dollar contract. You don't have a copy of it?
No, because when meeting, he had his copy of that particular paper that stated 65 tons.
65 tons what?
65 tons per week.
That's what you're picking up, 65 tons per week?
No, he's picking up about 80, 75 to 80.
Where is that? I've got contracts going back to 2011. It doesn't mention it at all.
You're 100% right,
Why doesn't it mention it in the contract?
because the contract that he had went back even further, and I don't have it.
Well, we don't have it either.
I spoke with, sorry, I don't know her name, the woman from Morangi, and she said she was in on the meeting and that they were trying to locate it because, like we'd all been saying, we'd all been basing this off tonnage, but when they looked at the document that they had brought to this meeting, it was also not listed there, or that she didn't understand how anything could be weighed because they don't even have the ability to weigh individual trash cans to do this on a weight limit.
No, that
Out there.
They don't weigh on individual trash cans.
Right.
They weigh each truck.
Right.
Once they enter and leave the
I'm just relaying what
facility.
she was concerned about. And basically, she said if she could locate it, she would send it, and she has not. So in the most recent contracts that we
Pause
have...
for just 1 second.
Okay.
Val, can you pause the timer?
In the most recent contracts or retainer agreements, we can actually motion as a board to ask them to give us a current scope of service. So I would like to do that regardless, and maybe that would be helpful.
Well, that was one of the things that we had requested, was a scope of service as well as the tonnage.
Okay.
And we haven't gotten either one.
Yeah, we...
Listen,
This is a big contract. This is $2 million a year? 2.5
yeah,
million?
2.4? Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I get it.
And I just don't understand that, we have a fiduciary responsibility here that we should have that contract in-house.
Yeah, and what specifics in the scope of work are you looking for? What specifics in the scope of work are you looking for?
The bulk pickup. Now, this past weekend, there was stuff left in the village of Monroe, gas grills, stuff that wasn't picked up, unless they did it Saturday. It was picked up this morning because I went up Upper High Street, and the stuff that was out over the weekend was gone this morning. So I don't think they picked it up yesterday. I wasn't up there on Saturday. But it was there Thursday afternoon, and it was there Friday. And it's throughout the village. I don't go into the town. I stay in the village, and there's a lot of bulk stuff that's not being picked up.
Okay, I'll make them aware of that.
I do appreciate it.
I wish you would have sent me an email. I could have got it.
Excuse me?
I wish you would have sent me an email on it,
Why?
so I could have got to them before last weekend.
No. I figured I'd come here and see you.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think, excuse me, what me and Councilwoman Bingham were also concerned about with the scope of service is that there seems to be a systemic garbage problem. We're getting constant complaints from residents that there are certain areas that the streets, they don't seem to be picking up the garbage, or where there may be rental units, and it's not clear to us, and the town is really supposed to be overseeing this in the village, and it's one of the few things that we actually provide to the village as a responsibility to those village taxpayers. So I apologize for that.
We pay for it. We pay over $400 a year for it.
Right. Yeah, well.
It's not for free.
I know. So we're responsible for managing it, though, I believe, on your behalf, aren't we?
I'm sorry?
Are we responsible for managing the contract on your behalf? Or do you yes, that's what I'm apologizing for. So the systemic issue, in my opinion, but we need the scope of service and we need these specific items to be able to determine where this issue is stemming from, is perhaps rental units, perhaps where a dumpster should be provided, how many units they're servicing before the dumpster should be provided, if the contract covers the type of rentals we're experiencing now. You see what I'm saying? If half the garbage is being left because they don't understand the pickup,
No
they don't understand.
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
The whole entire
Yeah.
scope of work, up to one family, two family, three family.
Exactly.
Once they go to a dumpster, that's the stuff we're looking for.
Yes.
And I was kind of surprised when it's not even in this building. You don't have it.
I came here in 2018. We had one from 2018 up until 2 years ago. Whatever was here prior to that, I have no control over. That was the town clerk prior to 2018. So,
Pass it on.
are you right? Yeah, you're right. Where is it? I don't know where it is, John. I can't answer that question because I wasn't here.
Every time that we've voted to continue on with this service and not had the original copy to see what service we are continuing has been strange. So I would like to make a motion that we request a current scope of service
The
from
current
Moranci.
scope of service is being worked on by them. We had a meeting, Andy Ferraro, Mayor Dwyer, and myself.
It's in the service terms that we as a board are able to put to vote to authorize the current scope of service. I've been in contact with them multiple times. They've not been in contact back, and this was after the meeting that they had. So regardless of if they're working on it or not, I would like to put it to a formal vote just to say that we did, just to do the best that we can
After
do.
the speaker speaks, and after all the speakers speak, then you can make that motion.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yes.
Hold on one second, John. Val, can you turn the timer back on, please?
All right, the next thing I have, and I'm sure most of the board, if not all of you, are aware, I filed a code of ethics against 2 town board members back on November the 3rd, 2023. At this point, I know the ethics board had met. I've got a copy of what was sent out. I would respectfully request that form be sent, if they'll do it, Orange County, and have them review that.
Brian, I would think that that would have to be done by yourself and not the Ethics Board. That's not, I don't believe that's their responsibility.
Okay.
Brian, you want to comment on that?
I'm not aware that Orange County Board of Ethics would review an ethics matter, but I don't know if the town board asked them to, whether they would or not, but legally, they're not a superior board to the town's Board of Ethics.
I think the Orange County Board acts in, if we didn't have our own ethics board.
Yeah, or they're for their own employees
Yes.
and officers.
But I meant for our nexus. But is it heard of that if there was a dispute of the ethics decision, what happens then? Because I'm hearing this as like a dispute of the result.
I don't.
Well, I will, listen, I'm not going to sit here and beat everybody's time to death. I will forward my complaint to the Orange County Ethics Board. It's just the language that was used against me by you, Mr. Cardone, this past October at Monbassia Reservoir. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Okay.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. And
Gotcha.
the text messages, and you, Mr. Skankarell, I thought a lot of you until I started seeing your text messages coming my way.
Okay. Did you check what you said in your text messages?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Of course not. And
You
the
have
threats
copies of
and
it.
the threats that were made to him and myself at your December Christmas event?
There was no threats made to anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting that from. Did you file a complaint?
No.
We're too busy.
Because we're too busy and I'm a man. I don't have to file a complaint when somebody
you're
calls
a
me a
man.
name.
You're a man.
Didn't you tell the police I called you a name?
You are. You're something. Your name should be Tony Condone, not Cardone.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate your comment.
Yeah.
Anything
all,
else?
Mr.
You're a callous individual. Thank you very much.
Have a good
Burke?
evening. Anybody else?
Dan Burke.
Yeah. Hi, Dan Burke, elder statesman, Rye Hill Road, Village of Monroe, Town of Monroe. I have brought this up previously. The minority on the town board needs their own attorney. This is not to impugn our town attorney who has the experience and integrity to serve the town well. Thank you, Mr. Nugent. But these are not ordinary times. From the very first meeting of the year, the town supervisor has established an adversarial climate on the town board. He has called another board member a liar. He is trying to use the Freedom of Information Act to seize personal phone records and private emails. He is obstructing an elected officials' access to town departments and town documents. These adversarial legal disputes require that each side have legal representation. No one can be both the defense attorney and the prosecutor on the same case. Next, I have the industrial appraisal company contracted by the town determined that the insurable value of the Town of Monroe Arts and Civic Center, effective May 10th, 2016, that was the best one I could get my hands on, to be $6.8 million. I've been through the 2024 budget and find no income from the town, from the theater. I did find $23,000 in expenses for theater maintenance. How can the town own a $6.8 million asset and not derive any income from it? The town budget, 2024 town budget, includes an $18,500 payment for budget officer personal services. When Sandy Leonard was town supervisor, that amount was $3,000. She applied that $3,000 to bring in help with managing the finances of the town. Somehow, that fee went from $3,000 in 2015 to $10,000 in 2021 to $13,500 in 2022, and this year, $18,500. The town supervisor is already responsible for the town's finances. Additional compensation for handling these same fiscal duties seems unwarranted and excessive. The town's finances would be better served by using that budget money to add a professional to help with town finances. And the Town of Monroe Solar Farm. produces excess electricity, which goes back to Orange and Rockland. O&R rewards us with an accumulating credit, which at this point is approximately $300,000. The town has no access to this $300,000. The town could install...
Time's up.
Can I have an additional 30 seconds or so?
Time's up.
Make a motion that we
Motion,
extend
yeah.
it for 30 seconds.
Second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Scancarello, nay.
Cardone, nay.
Well, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay.
Only 30 seconds.
This is constructive.
It would be anticlimactic otherwise.
Excuse me?
30 seconds is
Reauthorize
ticking.
30 seconds.
All right, 30 seconds.
Okay, the town could install electric vehicle chargers at various locations around town. EV users would add revenue to the town and tap into that $300,000. It's a way of turning electricity into money. Another way to use a solar farm electricity, which is in effect free, because we're not using it, would be by using electric buses for Dollar Bus. We could ask the county executive to get electric buses for Dollar Bus. And right now, we're spending $49,000 a year.
Time's up. Thank you. Next speaker.
Kate Troiano.
To be deliberately held up to public ridicule and humiliation is extremely painful and difficult. Newly elected Councilwoman Richardson has been held up to such ridicule and humiliation time and time again. Councilwoman Richardson has had the police called on her, has been told she will not receive information which she is entitled to as a duly elected official, has been subjected to long, nonsensical diatribes targeting her during meetings, and has been told that she is not an official liaison, so she is not allowed to speak to anyone about town business. It sounds unbelievable, but Supervisor Cardone has always behaved very vindictively when anyone has had the utter temerity to question him. Unfortunately, Mr. Cardone seems to think he is a king and not a public servant. He has been aided and abetted in his completely unacceptable behavior by a town attorney who serves Cardone, not the town, and by a human resources department which consists of Cardone's long-term friend and employee. In short, he has successfully rigged the system to work for him and his cronies and obstruct anyone else. That is until now. Maureen, I know you must feel so frustrated. You have so many great ideas for Monroe. You want to preserve open spaces, encourage public participation in government, make sure builders follow the rules, make sure our taxes don't skyrocket. Please don't get discouraged. You have been successful already. You stopped the Dino Park. You've shed light on the deplorable way Cardone governs. You've gotten people hopeful that Monroe can change for the better. This town is very lucky to have you. I would also like to add that the former board, whom Cardone constantly insults, stayed under the tax cap, bought a valuable building for a fraction of its value, had $5 million in fund balance, and never had a bond for $19.5 million that the taxpayers of Monroe are responsible for paying for the next 30 years. Thank you, Catherine Troiano, Sunset Heights.
Thank you.
That's all for public.
Have a good evening.
I would like to look into if it's possible, and again, not as a statement on Mr. Nugent, but it does feel like our board has a unique set of circumstances with people running for higher office, and just split needs. If there is someone that we could retain just as an investigation or get some quotes as a second form of information and opinion, just because I did not originally believe this would be an issue, but yes, I have been experiencing basic function issues as an elected official where I'm being told that I can't access records. I have literally no liaison assignments at all, and I do feel that it has been unfair and there's not been a way forward to resolve this without costing the taxpayer. So if we were able to just resolve these issues by just moving forward and having someone who could be retained, who was more neutral, and who would not be afraid of being fired or did not have a long-term relationship. And I don't mean to call into question anyone's ethics whatsoever, but it is a complicated dynamic with someone on the board running for higher office, or multiple people being on the board who are all on their active committees and having higher roles in those committees, including myself. So it's very political, and I would like to investigate if there was anything we could do, like retaining an additional attorney from a different firm for access.
Just for like a consultation, so to speak? Just to
Yes.
review certain facts?
Yeah, like my access to records and the policy on liaisons and subsequent issues.
Tried that.
What do you mean?
Last board meeting, we went into executive session to discuss hiring an additional labor attorney.
That was
And
to
we were-
investigate claims for an HR
Claims
investigation.
that involve the exact things that
No.
you just brought up. We
I'm
tried
talking about retaining someone as in permanently to continue on as Brian continues on, and how the planning board has their own firm, because I feel these issues will continue to arise, not to investigate claims and then deliberate and possibly recommend policy, which was my concern, is that we needed a result that could bring us forward, not just something that, if we're all elected officials, that it makes no difference in the end. That would be a waste of,
Money.
Yeah. So I would like to investigate if that's a possibility. Do we?
We will have to go to attorney-client.
Yeah.
And see what our options are.
Yeah, I don't even know how to word such a motion to do. But I would like, are we done answering these, or can we make the motion for Morangi now? I'd like to make an...
Wait, I didn't speak.
Well, I just
Hold on.
said, are we done?
Hold on. No, I just want to comment. John, I appreciate your comments, and I understand your concern. And, yeah, it was reviewed by the Ethics Board, but you got to remember also, I was not the one that hit someone and got arrested with a water key, and I was not suspended from the fire department for stepping on Christmas lights and damaging them. And I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Councilwoman Richardson. Councilwoman Richardson, did you want to make a motion?
Rangy?
From Rangi?
I'd like to make a motion that that statement was not representative of the town of Monroe.
It was a statement I made, okay? You don't have to agree with it. I'm
Thank
not going
you.
to make a motion for it.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion authorizing Morangi to produce the current scope of service terms for the town of Monroe, including the villages and anyone under our contract.
I'd like to add also to delineate the tonnage that is in the contract.
I think, yeah, just scope of services, is it defined, Mr. Nugent, as just everything that they are currently
I think
doing?
that would include the tonnage.
Yeah.
Is that Brian?
I think that would include the tonnage if it was in the
In the
scope
scope of service.
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Ingham will second.
Including the tonnage, or we not?
So the scope of service, the question was, is the scope of service all-inclusive? And it is. The scope of service, as it was outlined in the most current contract, is that at resolution of the board, Morangi must produce a scope of service which describes everything that we are paying for. And I would say that's down to the nitty-gritties of tonnage, if that's what we're paying for, and pick-up, drop-off, housing, dumpsters, rental unit, all of it. So let's start there, and let's authorize that, and then see what comes back.
Okay, you second.
Yes, Bingham second.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Oh, aye.
Richardson, aye.
Okay. Make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the social media policy?
That's not really a reason. I'm not sure what we're discussing, but.
Oh, this is what I was asked to do, so I'm just.
Okay, but we need.
If you don't feel it's warranted, then.
Well, if the statement's just social media policy, no, but I don't know.
I have something that I saw in vouchers that I would like to discuss with you, but I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it because it's listed on the vouchers, but I don't know if
Under one of the other reasons, like personnel matter concerning a particular person, is it dealing with a particular company, business
land
entity?
related.
I'm sorry?
It's land related.
Land related?
Yeah.
Contractual?
I don't know if I'm. You want me to whisper?
I'm going to withdraw my motion, so.
Yeah, well, if we're going to make a motion,
Yeah.
I'll come up with a reason.
Okay, so if
Talk about
potential
particular.
violations, clarifying violations,
If
or
we're talking about
potentially.
particular people,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
then it would fall under personnel matter concerning
Approaches,
particular employee.
policy approaches as it relates to certain individuals for the town of Monroe social media policy.
Yeah, again, that would fall under personnel.
I can't repeat that. I already forgot what I said.
Mr. Nugent repeated.
That would be under the reason of discussing matters that involve particular employment, discipline, promotion. I can't recite all the list, but of a particular person or entity.
Legal liability as it relates.
Are you asking for attorney-client advice?
Sure.
Then that's a good reason.
Okay.
Attorney-client.
All right, make a motion to return from executive session to the regular scheduled meeting of May 6th.
Poole will second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye?
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye?
Poole, aye.
Okay. No decisions were made, so if nobody has anything else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye?
Scangarello, aye.
Cardone, aye?
Poole, aye.
Nugent, aye. All right.
Nugent, aye.
Nugent, aye.